Hello YouTube chess lovers and my friends, this is Gunjan here. Welcome to my 65th episode of Dirty Chess Tricks. In this episode, I'm going to show you a wonderful high-profile trick in the Bishop D2 Scandinavian variation from the white perspective. The critical position arises after the following opening move order: E4, D5, E captures D5, Queen captures D5, Knight to C3, Queen to A5, and now white follow the main line for a while, D4, Knight to F6, and now there are two options white can choose, but I like this straightforward one, namely Bishop to D2. So planning is very obvious that white is all set to get a discovery on the black queen, and accordingly black has tried two responses. Well, if your opponent continue with c6, then I think this is a big time inaccuracy, as now the purpose of bishop to d2 can be revealed immediately with this fantastic move, knight to e4, attacking the queen, and it doesn't matter wherever the queen goes, let's say queen to c7, we can chop up this knight, and after any pawn recapture, e captures f6, you can see the point behind this whole transaction. Not only black get this horrible double pawn on the king side, and generally white has to surrender the bishop pair in order to achieve it, but here he get free of cost, which give him the early advantage in the opening stage. So that is the reason why here c6 is an inaccurate move. And as per the theory, many books and videos have recommended the move bishop to g4, which is known as complete remedy of this bishop to d2 line. The idea is very obvious that if white continue with knight to f3, then black get huge pressure on this d4 pawn with knight to c6. And if you play bishop to e2, then black is happily exchanges bad bishop with our good bishop, and resulting positions are quite balanced for the black camp. So in a nutshell, white is forced to play the move f3, attacking the bishop, and after bishop to f5, you can see what black has achieved is he has provoked some weaknesses on the white king side, and all set to continue with his usual Scandinavian setup, starting with e6 and c6. Well, that's a great news, except one problem, that white has a nasty modern trick up in his sleeve, and the tricky business start with this very cunning move order, bishop to c4, encouraging black to continue his setup. Let's say c6 first, and after knight g to e2, black plays the obvious Scandinavian move e6, getting his familiar pawn duo where bishop is outside the pawn chain. But the matter of fact is, after this, he is completely lost. Yup, you heard it right. And this is the beauty about this modern tricks. So before I move on guys, I want you to pause this video and find out a sequence where by force white get a completely upper hand. Are you ready? Let's start. The first move is very obvious. g4, attacking the bishop. This bishop doesn't have any space except bishop to g6. And now no prize for guessing white's next reply. Yup, you got it. h4, trying to trapping down that bishop. And accordingly, either black has to move the h pawn, or as happened in one of the game from the database, a nearly 2300 rated opponent continue with queen to b4, a counterattack to the white bishop. Okay, white plays bishop to b3, saving the bishop and now threatening h5, something which black has to respond immediately. And in fact, he did with the move h5, only to feel the rude shock. Bam! So suddenly that queen has been trapped down. Well, black can't play queen to b5 as knight to c7 check will nab the black sweetie. So that is right out of the equation. And the only move, queen to d6, fails immediately as after white's next reply, bishop to f4, black simply resigned the game as wherever the queen moves, let's say queen to d8, we have this juicy fork which not only grab the rook in the corner, but on top of everything, black king has been completely misplaced. So what a miniature, guys, just 15 move and 2300 rated opponent crushed. So it is now pretty clear that queen to b4 is a great time inaccuracy. So accordingly, black has to save the bishop by moving the h-pawn. And no matter whether he played h6 or h5, most frequent choice is h6. Our response will be very consistent. Knight to f4. So now the threat is knight captures g6 and then capture on e6. So black shouldn't allow this, and accordingly bishop to h7 is the only reply. But after white's next killing move, queen to e2, no matter however black plays, he is on the verge of losing the game. Well, it sounds strange and at first sight it doesn't look like, but believe me, if you put this position in any chess engine, it will give white a +2 advantage. The more you look at this position, more you will understand that white has a very simple threat, namely g5 and then some sacrifice on e6, which is very difficult for black camp to defend. Just for your information, there are more than 15 2000 plus rated opponent fallen into this line and lost the game pretty quickly. Well, to illustrate my point, I like to show you two quick wins by white. In the first game, black continued with bishop to b4, but white response cannot be denied. Yup, g5 attacking the knight. H captures g5 and now very nice move, knight captures e6, not giving any chance for the survival. Well, that knight is too dangerous, so black should take it off. But after that, the sequence is pretty much forced. H captures g5, attacking the knight, knight to d5, and now the whole point behind the sequence, g6, and look at that monster pawn. I think he deserved to become the next queen. Well, the game finished very quickly. Black played the move bishop captures c3, and after pawn captures c3, he realized that if the king will remain in the center, then game will not last long. So he tried to eject the king with knight to d7. But I'm afraid this is very late, as after queen captures e6, king to d8, white has a stunning reply. G captures h7, and black finds to his horror that the plan he was aiming to do, rook to e8, completely fails due to the simple tactic. Queen captures e8, king takes, and white promotes the another queen. Well, black struggle on for the few moves, and you can check it in the PGN. But at this point, it is easy to say that with the two bishop against two knight and two pawn advantage, white is in a completely driver's seat. Last but not least, the most frequent choice here is queen to c7. But against all of this response, white has a pretty consistent threat. Yup, g5, h captures g5, and this time around, because the queen is controlling the 7th rank, white respond with the move h captures g5. Well, if the knight moves, then we will see the similar tactical pattern as we seen in the earlier game. So here, black come up with this nice counter tactical move, bishop to d3, unleashing the attack to the h1 rook as well as white queen. It may sound surprising, but this is all been planned by the white camp, as he sacrifices queen with rook captures h8. Well, now the sequence is pretty much forced. Bishop captures e2, pawn takes f6, and now in the view of f captures g7 threat, black has to respond with g captures f6, which allow white to regain another piece with knight captures e2. And if you count the material at this point, white get 3 pieces against queen and a pawn, which is generally always turn out to be a good trade. Here the bonus part is black king is stuck in the center, and that was the critical factor which closed the game very quickly. Knight to d7 happened, white castles, and now black tried to generate some counterplay with the move a5, trying to dislodge the bishop, but only to get self-shock. Boom! What a move! Well, what's the point? The idea is very obvious. After f captures e6 and the move knight captures e6, not only white knight attacking the queen, but this means that black king will be permanently sit at the center of the board. Queen to d6 happened, attacking the knight. White first support the knight with knight to f4, and suddenly black is literally running out of the moves. Well, he tried the move b6, but this was the last mistake, as after the following sequence, knight to g7 check. It doesn't matter whether king goes to f7 or d8, both treated equally. King to d8, and now knight to f5, attacking the queen. Queen to b8 happened, completely tying down the big pieces. And here comes the final deciding blow. Knight to e6 check, king to e8, knight captures f8, and here black resigns in the view of very simple sequence. Knight captures f8, rook to e1 check. You can't play king to f7, as after rook to e7 check, king to g6 and knight to h4, we have a picturesque checkmate on the board. So that is right out of the equation. And the other move, king to d7, doesn't escape the checkmate sequence, as after rook to e7 check, king to d8 and rook captures f8. Black certainly do not want to see this position on the board. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoy and learn this high profile trick in the bishop to d2 Scandinavian. Remember, at this point, shock your opponent with the move g4. As I have shown in this video, the sequence is pretty much forced, and when finally white played the move queen to e2, it doesn't matter however black plays. White full quick point is awaiting on the board. You can literally use this line as a complete surprise weapon in the tournament practice. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to like, subscribe and comment, and I will meet you in my next episode very soon. Bye and take care.